Hey guys, it's Walker Dybel, author of Buy Then Build and creator of the Acquisition Lab. Earlier today, we got a question about indication of interest or IOIs and when to use one. And the lab member said, Walker, you kind of roll your eyes or something like that. Anytime someone brings up an IOI, and why do you dislike them so much? And the truth is, I don't. It's just that they have a very specific application, and most of the time, I feel like it is misunderstood. So I wanted to take a minute, shoot a short video about when to use an IOI and when it's appropriate. Okay. So an LOI, a letter of intent, is a formal offer in terms of a buyer wanting to place an offer to buy an existing business. It is a largely unbinding document most of the time, and usually the only binding component of an LOI is that the exclusivity period that the buyer is able to gain, right? And so some people who like to sort of pull companies off the market and sort of allow them to decide whether they want it or not, they'll sort of refer to it as lock up the deal, right? They'll sort of like put in an LOI hoping to get it, accepted so they can lock up the deal and kind of take it off the market. That's sort of the maybe negative view of the letter of intent. The positive view, of course, is I'm a buyer, assuming everything that you've shown me is true. I want to buy your business for this many dollars with these terms and this transition period, for example. And then the seller would say, okay, that's great. Let me give you, an exclusivity period of 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 90 days, whatever the deal kind of calls for, so that you can, as the buyer, start spending money on, due diligence and CPAs and, lawyers and creation of the APA and things like that, okay? So it gives that buyer, exclusivity of the deal so that they can then go continue and do due diligence, okay? And then, of course, during due diligence, you get into the asset purchase agreement and so on and so forth. But the indication of interest is something that comes before a letter of intent. And again, a letter of intent is almost always a non-binding document. So why would you use an IOI? Let me explain. Normally, an IOI is used in regards to proprietary deal flow, where there's no broker or M&A advisor involved. There's no package that's been put together, okay? And in other words, it's a way that a buyer can say, listen, I know enough about your business and I have a real interest in buying it. And I know enough about sort of like your revenue and like what the earnings are and like what the pieces are, but like, I don't want to, tie you up or spend my time talking to you if where I'm going to end up isn't going to achieve your goal, right? So it's a real simple way for a potential buyer and a potential seller to communicate in an off-market deal so that the buyer can then take the time to get enough information to get their arms around making a more formal offer, okay? Simultaneously, a potential buyer can take that IOI and begin to plant seeds in the investor community in terms of like, listen, I'm talking to this company, and here's sort of the range, and we're starting to get it going, right? And so we can start to warm the ovens in terms of potential investors as well. So in other words, the IOI, whenever I'm sort of like rolling my eyes, I guess, or something like that, is usually when, potential searchers are wanting to use an IOI in a deal having to do with a broker, okay? And for me, there's usually enough motivation on the seller. There's usually enough information in a SIM or a prospectus in order to start to get your arms around what are the things that need to be true in order for me to move forward. What are the things I need to know in order to make a go or no-go decision, right? Whereas an indication of interest doesn't necessarily line up with that potential deal. An IOI is really intended for a potential buyer to communicate to a potential seller where they think their business might be worth once they get through getting more information and prior to making a formal offer. I did learn something tonight in that I had a first-time buyer who wanted to use an IOI in a broker deal because he wanted to say, listen, I want to communicate to you that I intend to work towards making a formal offer of full price. However, I still need to learn more information. I still need to do a little bit more diligence before I can sort of get there. So here's my IOI. I fully intend to place make a go or no go decision. If it's a go decision, it will be a full price offer. I will do it in this amount of time, meaning 1 week, and or for example, 1 week. And here are the things that I need from you in order to do that. And I actually thought that was a really interesting and great strategy. It's something that I had never seen before, but I really like the self-imposed timeline, as well as creating a sort of like to-do list, because it gets everyone on the same team working toward a common goal with a clear path forward. Listen, if you are planning to buy a business in the next year, we've created the acquisition lab, right? Some people want to go out and do it yourself. You want to read, buy, then build, or read the Harvard Business Review Guide to Buying a Small Business and go out and find a business to buy. That's fantastic. Some people want to hire a buy-side advisor and pay them $5,000 a month, as well as a success fee. That's great. The Acquisition Lab is a do-it-with-you program that I built after 17 years of buying and selling businesses. It's got world-class world-class learning and curriculum based on not only my experience in my book, but also my time as an adjunct professor teaching this in the #1 entrepreneurship MBA program out there. It's got ongoing coaching throughout the entirety of your search. It has an extensive suite of tools that you will need, and it's got a vetted community. It's the only group that has a vetted community around buying a business. And what I want to tell you is I can look every single broker in the world right in the eye and say that at the Acquisition Lab, we have the largest group of vetted financial buyers in the world right here who are actively looking and ready to go. All for less than 1 month of a buy-side advisor fee. So if you're interested in buying a business and you want a community of searchers that are vetted, driven, and working together towards a common goal, check out the Acquisition Lab. Come over and apply. Looking forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks.